All right, it being 6:04 on November the 3rd, 2021, I call the Finance Committee meeting to order. First item on our agenda is the approval of the September 29th meeting minutes. I'll give everybody a second to look at it. And if anybody has any corrections or additions, I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
All right, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain. All right. All right, the meeting minutes of September 29th have been approved. I'll give them to you so we don't lose them. Next item on our agenda is capital request for FY '23 from Fire and EMS. And I think we have with us Chief McDonald. Chief?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the Finance Committee.
How we doing?
We're doing well, thanks. How about yourself?
Good, good, good.
Just, you'd be interested to know, we took delivery of the new rescue pumper on Monday.
That's wonderful.
And, so now we're in the process of changing equipment over. Still has some things to be done. We got some more work that's, we're waiting on the contractor to be able to provide. But when we get a chance, we want to bring it over to show it to you.
That'd be great. Love
Very
to see it.
impressed with the work that the committee did in putting the vehicle together, so.
Well, I'm impressed that you finally got that North Station up and running and staffed, and that's great that we now have response times to the other end of the community. That was heartfelt by, I'm sure, a lot of the people who live in the north end on the other side of 20.
Yeah, I do hear that quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it's improved we have NFPA 1710, which is our guidance for response times. And the expectation is to get out to the scene for an ambulance call within 9 minutes of the dispatch 90% of the time. And we're at 93% now because we've opened up that station. So.
Yeah, it's surprising the area that you have to cover with the two stations.
26 square miles, and Oxford's very long and narrow.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate that we have the major arteries that we do.
Yeah.
You know,
But
going
getting
through town.
across 20 down 56 to get to the golf course or wherever you're headed in that end of town, that's time
Yeah,
consuming.
It's about a 16-minute run from Station 1 down here on the south end. So, and right now, when we first opened up the line for the demarcation between the North District and the South District was more up towards the police station, Carbuncle Road there. But as we looked at it, we saw that it was about a 60 or 40% split, so 60% being done down south. And so the deputy chiefs and I got together and we looked at it, and we decided to move that district boundary south. So now it's Dana Road, Rocky Hill. So anything south of that is Station 1, anything north of that is Station 2.
So you rebalance it, so now we have a better.
Yeah, and I got to give my people some, very big credit for making it work, because essentially, we have 4 people to staff a fire apparatus for a fire call. They're separated between 2 stations, so, we have the protocol, whereas if it's a fire down south, they go out with the engine here, and then the ambulance comes down, they have air packs and all their equipment on it, they make up a crew of 4 for the initial attack engine, and vice versa when we go north, so they make it work very well, and that's the only way that we can have an ambulance available in both districts to be on scene as quickly as possible, so.
It's important.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to be talking about right now. You have a request for $300,000 to replace an ambulance.
Yes,
It's-
Mr. Chairman, thank you, yes. So this is to replace ambulance 2. We have 3 ambulances. This particular ambulance is a 2011, so the average shelf life for an ambulance is about 10 years. Of course, it all is predicated upon wear and tear, how often it goes out. We do have a maintenance rotation plan, so with the 3 ambulances, we shuttle them in and out. It's down in south in Station 1, which is the busiest station. On 1 month, we're running out ambulance 3. On the other month, we're running out ambulance 1. So we're trying to keep the mileage evened out. So this is our most pressing need for the moment. It's a 2011. It has 151,208 miles on it as of today. Those were fresh numbers I got just before I came to the meeting. 6,313.7 hours on the vehicle. So It's getting used pretty well, and it's time for its replacement. So the 300,000, that's going to get us the items that we need, the power stretcher and the newer ambulances and everything. You know, all the prices that I'm sure you've been following in the news with everything is, the prices are creeping up. They especially hit a peak a few years ago with the tariffs on steel and some of the other precious metals and everything.
And the power stretcher, that's the, I know, one that we put it in one of the amps was $40,000.
Yes.
That's the lift to save on, you know, big guys like me that weigh
Yeah.
250 pounds. Guys, saves on workman's
Backs,
comp,
yeah.
back injuries, and it provides
sure.
a better safety
Yes.
for the extricating somebody and bringing them to the hospital and getting them out. It's yeah.
Yeah,
So
so-
that's all part of it. It's just not the ambulance. There's
Right.
a lot that goes into it.
Yes, and about 4 or 5 years ago, the national standard for the construction of ambulances changed because, you know, they constantly are analyzing accidents involving ambulance and everything, and they found some deficiencies with the way the older railings for securing the stretcher within the vehicle. You know, because when you get hit, you don't want your patient going all over the place. So now they have much more stringent requirements for the rails that hold the stretcher in place. So this will bring it all up to modern standards, and it'll give us a good vehicle, and so that's pretty much in the range there.
Are we still experiencing our calls, three of the 4 calls, ambulance and not fire related?
Oh, yeah, we'll always be, we're probably about 80% ambulance and 20% fire right now.
I know we're an aging community. I know that 1 in 4 is over 65, and we're gonna hit 28% in another year and a half, 2 years, that'll be over 65. So I don't know if that, I would think with age, that's gonna impact the calls.
It certainly does, yeah, the age demographic,
Yeah.
yes, it certainly does affect the call volume. And right now, we're a very busy service. We have 19 full-time staff, counting myself, and then there's 4 people assigned to each shift. There's 4 shifts. And I could tell you that yesterday, somewhere in the afternoon, the tone went off again, and the guy, my officer in charge said, that's number 11 for the day. A couple weeks ago, we had 17. So we're getting up there in the double digits each shift, and it's about evenly spread. And then in some cases, we're having to call in mutual aid because, you know, both ambulances are out on the road, and there's nobody available to come in to take the 3rd ambulance. And we're also doing the same for other communities. Other communities are in the same boat, so we've been
Where are
going.
we at with EMTs and your staffing and?
We're up to full staffing in terms of where we need for each shift. I do have 3 people in the pipeline right now.
For
Yeah, 3
training?
that are in paramedic training. Well, 2 are actually just they're waiting to get their test and get certified. So they've completed all of their training requirements. So we have at least 2 paramedics on each shift, in some cases 3, and then I think in one case we'll have 4 paramedics on one shift if a couple of these people, once they finish their training.
That's good.
I have 1 person who is an EMT, who's in advanced EMT training. So we already have 1 advanced EMT. This will bring us up to another, to 2. We'll have 2 advanced EMTs.
Now, that training comes out of your budget, right? There are grants
well,
involved.
These people are putting themselves through their training. They're paying it themselves.
They are.
I do have 1 who's just started paramedic training a couple months ago. So, yeah, there's some of them that are.
Well, it affects their pay grade, of course, but still,
It does, but still, it's, you know, you're
it's
talking.
expensive.
Right now,
Time,
yeah, to
both
get
time and money.
paramedics, about 20 grand, you know, if not a little bit more. There was a big, when we went to the National Core competency requirements of the National Registry, National Registry of EMTs, the whole structure and even accreditation of training programs changed, so it essentially doubled the cost. I was in Munson at the time, and we had just enrolled 2 people in paramedic training through a grant. It was $10,000 for each person, and literally overnight, it went from 10,000 to about 20,000. So, and a lot of that's driven by the standards. I mean, they want to make sure that people are trained and competent. So,
I was just wondering, you know, I'm looking, I wonder if that's something we could do either through grants or through compensating some of the training costs for a commitment of tenure, like the police department does with their training, and they have a 5-year tenure commitment where you have to remain within the community for 5 years, where we could augment and maybe facilitate some EMT training, you know, going from paramedic to EMT and do that in the future. That'd be something that either through a grant or through our budgeting process to encourage that, because it seems like that's the predominant need. I know they're all capable of fighting fires, but they're not all capable of paramedic or EMT training, so,
Well, all of our full-timers and the majority of our call people are dual role. Our full-timers really have to be dual role because they have to be able to meet that fire suppression mission.
Sure.
And be able to staff the ambulance, so. And the way we have it structured now, there's always a paramedic on each rig, so both rigs, we endeavor at all times to keep at the paramedic level. There are occasions if somebody's out on vacation and there's not a paramedic to backfill, that one rig's at paramedic level and the other rig may drop down to the basic life support level, but that's very rare. It's normally
just a thought, going forward, based on the demand that I see increasing, if anything.
right. Yeah, and our new, if we do get any new recruitments, we try to focus on getting people with paramedic. But even on the call force, we do have a number who are just firefighter trained only. We have 3 or 4 right now that are, actually, no, it is 5. We have 5 that are EMS only, so either paramedics or basic EMT.
And those are the volunteer, the call firefighters.
The call firefighters, part-timers, right?
Yeah. And that's about, what, 20/20, basically, between the
Yeah, it's 50, yeah, we have
50/50, yeah.
We have a couple vacancies right now, but the call force, it's a trend pretty much nationwide. With the call force, it's like anything else in life, you get busy, right? So
Yeah.
people who are call personnel, they have to split their time between their full-time jobs, right? So that's 8 hours pretty much in a work day. They have to get 8 hours of sleep, right? So that gives them 8 hours to do everything else in their life.
In life, yeah.
That's to go to the ball games, dance recitals, take care of whatever else their interests are, and then have some time over for the fire department. So, people endeavor to do as much as they can for the community. So, and I'm very fortunate to have the dedicated crew that I have, both on the career side and the part-time side, committed to that. And to your point about the training and the grant stuff, that was as we discussed before, that's a program that I've run successfully in other departments in Dudley. We did that where the town fronted the education up front, and then the person had a commitment. They signed an agreement that was prorated. They had to stay a certain number of years, and if they left before that, they had to pay the money back, and that worked successfully. And Ricky Hall, who is also in the police department and a dispatcher and in the fire department, fantastic paramedic, just a tremendous asset to this community. We were having some discussion the other day, and he brought up another point to me that there's opportunities out there in terms of Pell Grants and educational assistance. And of course, he brings that expertise with him from the educational background that he has and the work he does with Anna Maria and Quincy. So that was a new thing that came up, and it's just nice to be around.
I know we talked about that, and that's why I was looking at the ambulance, but then you're looking at the physical, the capital request, but then there's the personnel part of it that goes with the ambulance. And I know we talked about focusing on doing something with grants or some kind of augmenting the training to get maintaining the staffing levels for these different vehicles, so we can roll them.
Yeah, so those are the things we're pursuing next, so.
Good.
But,
Yep, sure.
Back to this vehicle. It says the newer vehicle will be purchased with an extended warranty from the manufacturer. What is the, normal warranty, and what's going to be the extension?
That's a good question. That's an excellent question. So, most vehicles that are constructed in this manner, they come, when you go for the bid proposal, like most of the time, I prefer to do something off of the state bid. So there's 2 types of bids that the town participates in. FCAM, which is the Fire Chiefs Association of Massachusetts bid process, and then also the HGAC, that's the Houston-Galveston bid process. So built into the request for proposals that they put out for that is specifics, how much on the paint, how much on the body, how much on the engine, electrical, et cetera. So while I don't know them off the top of my head, for example, let's say that the corrosion guarantee against corrosion for the body is 10 years, or...
So it's depending upon what it is, it could be...
Yeah, it's always part of the bid proposal. So that's why when we put it in the justification, it's saying, these are things that are pretty much included in it. These are the benefits that we get as part of that bid process and what we're looking.
So how much more does the extended warranty cost?
Well, those things are predicated. So when the bid committees that serve on, or the people that serve on these committees put out the proposals or build the specifications for it, they build it with the intent to get a 10-year service life out of them. So that's really the motivation behind specifications that are put out that they're looking for in the bid and that we require them to bid on to be successful. And that's just in a general sense. I'm not gonna say it's specific to this vehicle, but that's how it's supposed to work.
So, okay, maybe I'm a little confused. So, when the proposal is put out, we tell them what we want for a vehicle and the different features of it. So is it usually, what I think I'm hearing is, it's got, say, an 8-year shelf life or life, and this extended warranty is like kind of added to it to bring it up to 10 years?
Well,
Why
it's-
don't they just make it for 10 years and say, here's the price?
Well, that's the average lifespan of an ambulance anyway.
Right.
So, and again, there's certain things, these are all part of manufacturer things, no different when you go to look for a car. There's certain things that, from a quality standpoint, that the manufacturer puts in there, so.
Drivetrain, stuff like that.
Yeah, but in terms of this, like I said, I'm just using as an example, if you go off of the FCAM bid or the Houston Galveston stuff, that's something they build into the bid process. If we were putting together our own request for proposal, those are the things you look for. You basically look for the best practice to get the best bang for the buck. And again, I don't know what the numbers are. Those would be in the specification list, and I didn't think that far in advance to, this is a very good question. I didn't expect it to come up tonight. Usually that'll come up at some point, but I can actually, in terms of this, I can get back to you to tell you what it would be if we were to purchase off FCAM or HGAC buy for the specific things. But essentially, what we're going to get is an ambulance that should last us 10 years, like if you look at, and I think it's pretty consistent because this is the ambulance we're replacing. It's got 150,000 miles. It gets pretty good use, 66,300 hours on it. And I mean, it's in service where we're using it, but it's getting to the end of its service life, and it's going in for maintenance more often and more regular, so there's certain things now at this point aren't gonna be covered by a warranty, so.
So an ambulance averages about 15,000 miles a month?
Well, it all depends on the
I mean, a
jurisdiction.
year.
Yeah. It depends on the jurisdiction.
150,000 miles, it'd be 15,000 miles a year, right?
In this-
Roughly?
In the case of this one, that's what it works out to be, yes.
That's a little over 1,000 miles a month. I'm just thinking of going back and forth to Worcester and stuff.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's why it's important that they're rotating the vehicles to
Oh,
make
yeah.
sure that there's even coverage. I was thinking about the repair costs as well. Are they more expensive, the newer vehicles to repair? I would think that they are.
Well, any vehicle, so that's the good thing about having a warranty. So there's those things that are covered by the warranty, and then there's those things that are considered operator maintenance. But the trend, I don't think, has changed much as it has in the past, is a newer vehicle tends to cost you less in maintenance, an older vehicle tends to cost you more. Because it's at fail points, for
Right, but
different parts.
There may be more computer parts or more technology that in the newer vehicles are more expensive to repair.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah. I would classify that as that there's a potential for greater repairs, and that's why it's important to have
The
the
extended
warranty.
The warranty,
Right,
yeah.
and, so, and again, if I think I'm more on the lines of a fire truck right now. For example, electrical system stuff that's more complex, the warranty on that might be 10 years.
Right.
But the fire truck versus an ambulance, a little different because the expected lifespan of one of the suppression apparatuses is 20 to 30 years, depending on what kind it is. And really, they try to shoot for 25 years to replace them, but.
And we'll have money in the ambulance receipt fund to cover that.
Yes, I'm just gonna look, so Katie gave me some numbers she couldn't.
Yeah, she gave us some numbers
yeah.
there. I guess currently we're projecting about 880.
Yes. 87.
87,000,
That's the current, so 887, 289.40 is the current fund balance.
right.
She estimates that to collect through April would be 353,699. Available to appropriate in May would be 1,240,988.42. That's based upon, and I think she's used some pretty conservative estimates right
Yeah.
now. She's basing that on a $58,900 a month inflow. We've
Which
been-
is kind of average. But
Yeah.
these next couple of months seem to be built higher historically. At least that's what she said.
Yes, yep, yes.
So we're using the average and not taking that into account. So that would leave us, so,
Yeah, 449.88 is what would be
yeah,
available.
available.
And I didn't, there's some other options I plan on talking over in terms of, financing or whatever, because I know we have the money to buy it outright, but I have not looked at it yet. One of the things that I've done in previous jurisdictions is looked at lease purchase versus buying outright, because then you can spread your payments over 5 years. You take delivery of it, and you have an annual payment that comes off of that. Sometimes it's beneficial to do that, and other times it's not. It all depends on the market and the economy. So that's just something I haven't even, this is the first time I really mentioned it, but it was something that I do intend to talk over and see what Katie thinks and
I know she
explore.
expressed some concerns going forward based on what we're gonna be left with, out of the 441 and rounding.
Yeah.
You're spending 350 for the next ambulance.
Right, and so we talked about that, and she said we may have to push that back a year. And, I'm not, that's something I think is quite
Or we could
feasible.
entertain what you just talked about, a lease purchase, if it
Well,
made sense.
if that, yes, we're gonna look at that to see if that kind of gets us. That's what, it was after I got off the phone with her and we had that conversation, I thought about it. And I've just been kicking it around, but again, I haven't had a chance to look at it. But if that is the case, it may work out for us to do that. If not, then pushing the other one back another fiscal year should be okay, because we'll have the two.
Or we could taper some of what she's talking about appropriation. She's got 800,000 budgeted this year for '23. In years past, it's been less than that. It's been 760. It's been as low as 660. So
For the
for the
budget side?
Yeah, on the
Well,
budget.
yeah, but the thing is, though, we added that extra, that last fourth person to the shift to get
Sure.
all shifts to 4, so, yeah. And we did have a grant. Remember, we had the
And the
SAFER
grant's
grant.
expiring?
And grant's expired already, so,
Okay,
yeah, so that I would expect that number to stay consistent.
you would.
Yeah.
Okay.
If not, go up with the cost of,
Do you think that, okay, for FY '23, which is what we're doing now, we think it's gonna be, we're appropriating $300,000. For the other ambulance for next year, do you think the same amount is
Yeah, I would-
realistic? Or
no.
do you think it should be?
well, yeah, so the average, it all depends, you kind of look at the market and everything, but usually it's it all depends, 5 to 15% increase. Usually what'll happen is the manufacturers will send something out to the chief's organization, and they'll push it out to the membership saying, this is what we anticipate being the increased cost to our equipment for the upcoming year based upon the market and the economy.
So it could be another 15,000. We'd be looking at 315, 320 next year.
It could.
On the second ambulance.
It could, and anecdotally, I could tell you though too, that when I've done this in the past, there's been cases though where even you could manage to work something in at the same price, But, right now with everything being as volatile as it is, I would not,
Yeah,
I
crazy.
wouldn't wanna hedge that bet.
But, this would, if you did a lease purchase, this would come, as we did with the DPW, we were talking about that prior to tonight's meeting. That comes out of your operating budget, so all of a sudden, that's less money you have in your operating budget, because now you have to, even if we gave you seed money for the the down payment and the first year's lease, the second year, that if you have a
Right.
$2 million budget and the lease payments are 100,000, you're only operating at $1.9 million. So that means you have to tighten up your operating expenses, whether it's overtime or equipment replenishment.
Well, that's the beauty though, the ambulance reserve receipts account for
Yeah.
capital, so that because that doesn't affect us
Doesn't
for
affect,
the
yeah,
ambulances.
yeah.
It would affect us for a fire truck, it wouldn't affect us for the,
Unless we did the lease purchase.
yeah,
Like you're
if we,
talking.
no, even if we did the lease purchase.
Or you
you
take it out of the receipts.
still
out of the
take it
ambulance.
out of the ambulance reserve
That's
receipts.
right,
It's
that's
just-
right.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, you're right.
Yeah, the train left the station, never mind.
So it would come out of the so that would be a way of mitigating it. So if we're left with I think 140,000, say, if, for next year starting out, plus whatever
could,
receipts you are,
It's saying it's an option. It's an option. Like I said, I've had cases where looking at it, it was better to buy it outright like we do, and in other cases, it's, on this cycle, we'll go ahead with a lease purchase, and it was a good move, because it all depends, again, on the cycle of where you're at in the economy.
The train's back at the station. So, now will you have two places, I'll call them, to go to get, you have the Galveston one and then the other one, right? Do you get a bid or submit something to both of them? Or do you have to make
No.
a decision ahead of time and say, well, we're gonna go this way or we're gonna go that way?
So no, the beauty of those or
That's a bid process.
belonging to those, the bids, the state has already put out the bid, they bid on them, they've been accepted, they've been awarded contracts. And even though it's two entities that have multiple vendors that do that. So it's essentially that, instead of doing an RFP, or any kind of going out to bid yourself and having to open it up and go through this process, because you have to build the spec, you have to build the measurement of the spec, and then you have to announce it, then you have to collect all that. Essentially, they've done all that work for you, so all you do is you go to the vendors that are on that list, and they have the list of the types of vehicles that are on that list, and you find the one you want, they tell you how much it is, and you check out the spec on that particular vehicle against it to make sure that it meets all the requirements, and then you just buy it.
Do you ever have competing vendors? You know, for example, if I go to buy a car, I probably go to Diamond, and then, I don't know who else sells Chevys, but, you see where you can get the best deal.
Well,
but-
those are all based upon the vendor, and so you could, the people who sell ambulances in Massachusetts will most likely be on both. Some are not always on both. They might be on both, they might not. And, you look at which vendor it is and which price range you're looking for and what options, because it's all gonna be predicated upon. You might be able to go to one and get a $275,000 ambulance, but it doesn't include the electric cot. You gotta, get a manual cot, so you don't wanna, so the bid process is just that they've already done the work for you, and so now you just go find the vendor with the price and the options that you want, and you don't have to go through that cumbersome process of doing an announcement and everything. They're already been awarded the contract, and they're on the bid. They've been through the bid process that was done through that contract.
So they've done the shopping for you, basically.
Essentially, yes.
And once the contract is awarded, how long does it take from that point to when we actually get the vehicle?
Well,
Roughly.
it depends on if they have any in stock. In some cases, they may have something already in stock, and then it's just a matter of having the radios installed and any other minor work done. Or if you have to, there's a waiting list, let's say they don't have enough of the chips for the computer and everything, it can take anywhere from a few months to a year. And in some cases, I don't know about ambulances, I can tell you right now, the reason we were fortunate to get a demo for which is a truck that was already built and the manufacturer was demonstrating, it would have been a 15 to 18-month process for us to wait if we had to go through the build process because of the backlog in chips, microchips.
Okay, and what was it? We got it within how many months?
Well, the vehicle, once we went through all the process and found the right vehicle, we just got it this week. The vehicle was finished by the manufacturer and brought to the vendor here locally by August, and they had to do some more local work here, so just a few months. Yeah. From
Yeah,
July
wasn't long.
1st, from the vote of the town meeting, and then the execution of the budget on July 1st till November 1st. Not bad at all.
No, takes me longer to find a car.
It's good. Any other questions of the committee members? No? All right. Well, Chief, so you're gonna mull over
Very
your options as far as purchase goes, but makes sense. Now, do we wanna,
Are we looking at any of the other forms?
we wanna go over,
So this is,
you
I
have a
think-
5-year budget plan.
Yeah, we do. I just expected to talk about the ambulance
Yeah.
tonight. If you want, I am familiar. I did peruse over that before I came to the meeting on, I think next year was the ambulance, and then I think there's a misprint on the forms, because I think it has 1.5 million for a ladder truck, and it shouldn't be. It should be 1 point.
Renovation addition of Fire
Okay, all
Station
right.
2.
Yeah, it should be $1.5 million for renovation of Station 2.
That's what's-
For renovation. And I saw some of those renovations on the Department of Public Works budget that we're gonna be entertaining next week, so there's kind of like an overlap, it looks like.
Yeah, well, if they put it in their budget, then, yeah, I just probably did it for mine, and then I talked to Mike and
Yeah, Mike,
Jared, and they,
yeah.
yes, because that really is a facilities thing, but as far as me being the steward of that facility.
I know
then-
there were fire doors and other things and roof, and there's a number
Well, there
of
was some
different
things
components
that John had done
before.
beforehand, and we have, of course, we work hand in hand between myself, John, and Ken Sellers, the other deputy, on reprioritizing, all of these exercises are great to project out, and then you kind of, maybe change them and adjust. We're in the process, we did get some money to replace the roof at Station 2, but really, that's a station that was built, I believe, in the 70s.
68, 70, yeah.
Yeah, and it was built for a call fire department, so there's really no bunk rooms there. There's the storage area for the apparatus, the parking bay, and then off to the side, you have a communications room, you have an office, you have a kitchen slash big great room, if you will, 2 bathrooms, a shower room, and that's it. So right now, there's 2 people up there. One person sleeps in the office. We have Murphy beds, the ones that fold down out of the wall and then fold up when you're done. And there's 2 Murphy beds in the great room, whereas we have private bunk rooms down at headquarters. So, and really the office space isn't sufficient enough. So, we'd have to look to see about expanding on the building. So we try to basically improve what's there and then maybe add on, and we'd have to figure out if we can, and we have to go out sideways. We can't go up, as I understand it, because the way the building was built, it can't support a second floor, so.
And
a second
it's a
story.
tight footprint there, too, so.
Right. Yeah, the good news is around it, even though it's a tight footprint, it's all town-owned, as I understand it. So, I would only envision the way we could go probably is out to the side towards the ball field, and there's not a lot of space there, and then back. And realistically, it's not like a big expansion. It would be to do some things to bring the building up to code and just maybe add a few more rooms off to the side, if it's even feasible. We'd have to look at that, too.
Is the reason why some parts of the form are not filled out because there was the cross with the DPW budget? Do you know?
I don't know. I just know that there were other issues. There's a number of, I looked at it, and I think you probably did as well. I think there's about 5 items or 4 items that are related to your facilities that are on the DPW budget for next week.
Yes, I think one of them, it might be the HVAC system at Station 1, the heating ventilation. Yes, that's.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, because I just noticed that the funding source is not checked, and, some of the parts of the form are not checked off.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, so, I can tell you what the needs are of the facility, but of course, Mike and Jared would be able to speak better to how they manage that aspect of it, so.
Okay, thank you.
And then the next item you have after that renovation is the $200,025 for the replaced Forest 2 truck.
Yes, yeah.
The one that caught my eye was, and then there's replaced a water tender 1, and again, that's in 2026, $700,000.
Yeah, they're expensive,
And then ambulance 3 that we have in 27 for $325, and we talked about inflation.
Yeah.
The one that caught my eye was the replacement of ladder 2 in FY '28, $2 million.
Yeah, ladder trucks are very expensive, and,
It'll be more than that come to,
well, no, that's the inflation factored in.
is it?
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
That's the big one. I know it's got a 20-year life, and, talk about aerial, and we had a discussion about aerial trucks. Everybody thinks we don't have buildings that tall, but it isn't. It's the reach going over.
Right.
Having had a chimney fire, the aerial truck was at my home, and it reached over, and they got the guys on the roof and on the chimney from the roadway. So I had a first-hand learning experience on how aerial trucks do things other than go up to a 5th-story building. They also, from the roadway, they can reach out and put guys where they need to be on the roof.
Exactly, yeah, and then there's also the ground ladder complement of it too. So where an engine will show up, it may have 1 ladder on it, and you get 2 engines, it has 2 ladders on it. But, to operate safely at a fire scene, you're really supposed to have ladders on all 4 sides of the building so that if anybody gets trapped, you can get out. And so a ladder truck gives us that. And everything, as I explained at the town meeting, and you may have heard me say before, the type of ladder trucks that we purchase are what we call quints, and that means it has a tank, it has a hose supply, it has a pump, and it has the ladder on it, so it does 5 different, so it's considered a hose wagon, a pump, and everything. So it's 5 functions that it performs, hence the term quint. And that was, so now pretty much all of our specialty vehicles can also be used as a suppression apparatus, which is important when you only have 4 people on duty.
And we're not watered in the whole
Yeah,
community.
yeah, right, yes.
And that's a huge thing.
Not hydrants everywhere, yeah. That's why that water tender becomes very important. So the ladder two that's at the north end right now has 750 gallons of water on it. The water tender has 2,500 gallons of water on it, and the other engines have 1,000. So that sounds like a lot of water, but when you consider, you know, that you're pumping it usually the hand lines, you're going into a fire, 1,700 square foot home, let's say a room or two on fire, you're pumping 100 gallons a minute. It's, you know, you get 10 minutes of firefighting time, and that's about it. And, you know, that's great if your water flow and capability is emitting enough to cool down the BTUs being put off by the fire, but,
Yeah.
but I do say, the people I have, they're well-trained. Every fire that we've had recently, and the thing is, fires are down, which is great, because our first mission is fire prevention, and Deputy Chief Sellers does a great job with that, and the community does, because they're the ones who are making sure we don't have the fires. You know, but, so our property loss is down in that regard. So my crew is very competent, though, about when there is one, making it go away very quickly, so solving the problem.
Any other questions, thoughts, comments, Chief? Well, we appreciate your time in coming and presenting this.
I want to thank you for the service that you do for the town and for the support that you give to all of us in our departments. It certainly is what serves to make us successful, because we can't do it without you, and we can't do it without the public supporting us at every step of the way. And I'm coming up on my 2-year anniversary, November 25th. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very grateful for the warm welcome I received and for the support that you've all given us, yourselves, the elected leaders of the town, and the citizens.
Appreciate you, Chief. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a nice evening.
You too. All right. Next item on the agenda is new business. If there is any, I'll entertain discussion. The only new business is new member, John McLaughlin. Welcome on board. Thank you. Thank you for joining us, giving up your time in the evenings. Old business, I don't think there is any, unless somebody, no. Discussion of upcoming meetings. Well, the next one is Wednesday, November the 10th, and that will be the DPW, and I think we've already gotten our number of requests there. They're voluminous. That's going to be a long meeting, I think.
I have everything printed out. Would you like it now? Yes.
That'd be great. That'd be
Okay,
save on my ink.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'd be great. All right. That said, then I hear a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
I'll make a motion.
All right, second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Very informative.